You're watching VTV 15, your source for local government, history, and the arts.
Approved. That moves us into echo chamber here. Other business. Without objection, I'd like to take number 2 out of order and begin with the department update from Jason, and he will wrap that up by introducing Rolando to us. So, Jason, go ahead.
All right. Well, good evening. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Great. Good. So I appreciate you moving the agenda around for me. I just thought it may be a little bit easier flowing, if you will, to go through the department update first. So without further ado, I did change the PowerPoint a little bit, so I'm going to, if I stumble a little bit, just bear with me here. But nonetheless, we definitely want to talk to you for sure about the 4 divisions that we have within the department, as well as the department projects that we have ongoing. And as always, I will defer the recreation piece of it to Ms. Kimberly. So the Parks Division, and as well as the Parks Division too. So the Parks Division, we're able to have a lot of stuff going on the last 2 months. And so I included November and December. I typically give you just the month prior to, but nonetheless, in November, staff was able to partner with the Hopkins School, Hopkins Elementary, as well as the Boys and Girls Club, and we were able to have an Arbor Day celebration over at Hopkins Park. It was a really great event. We had about 40 to 50 kids at the Boys and Girls Club that helped out, and that's what that picture shows. We planted 3 trees over there, and so they had a really great time. So another thing that we're doing in the Parks Division is still continuing to collect data. Part of that is just collecting hours and where our efficiencies are at. So that's definitely going to help us down the road when we talk about our future conversations and shapes our organization. And then, of course, there's just support from multiple events, more so from recreation, but because recreation is a smaller division, Parks Department or Parks Division obviously has a lot more people, and so there's a lot more hands, and so they're very involved with those kind of programs. So a picture of the Christmas parade that Parks and Recreation was able to host just a few weekends ago. And then I also put in here recovery because that's something that we're still dealing with, quite frankly, in Riverside Park, more specifically over at the Grover's Bend area. And there was a lot of sand, a lot of silt, a lot of damage, and so our Parks Division is still continuing to work on that. We did clean up majority of Riverside Park with the exception of this area. This is just taking a little bit longer, unfortunately, and so I just ask the community to bear with us as we continue these recovery efforts from the flood a month and a half ago at this point, almost 2. Any questions on parks? I'm sorry, before I get into recreation. Okay. Recreation, I'll go ahead and pass over to Kimberly and let her chat about all the really cool stuff that we've got going on and what we've done.
Good evening. So 2 weekends ago, we had Christmas on the Square on Friday night, and followed by the Christmas Parade of Lights on Saturday, and it was great. thank you for those who came out and those who were in the parade. We had over 120 people actually there that night. We had over 130, well, entries, not people. I think it's projected about 35,000 people came out that night, which was really great to see. I think we completed the parade in record timing, so that was really great. But yeah, so we hosted those two events, and then this past weekend we had the youth hunting program out in Riverside, and it was really successful. We had 6 kids from around Victoria, and they took 18 deer, so 17 does and 1 buck. No longer living in Riverside Park, but there's still plenty running around. And then we have the TAF Winter Games coming up still. That is the weekend of January 15th. We have 9 confirmed tournaments at various facilities across Victoria, some with Victoria Independent School District. We're using East High School, West High School, and then their aquatic center. And then we have our own facilities with the Youth Sports Complex, the Community Center, and then Riverside Disc Golf Course, soccer fields, and the golf course. And then, so keep on the lookout for that, as well as this Saturday at the Community Center, we have the Christmas Family Expo from 10 to 3. There's a lot of fun experiences happening. Local vendors are coming out. I think we have 17 local vendors will be there putting on some stuff for the kids, and that will be really great. And then we have softball finishing up this month, and then we're starting flag football. Hopefully we'll be able to get adult flag football going on in January. Registration is open now. If we get it successful, that'll be the first time we're offering this sport, so it's really, really cool. We're looking at doing a winter basketball tournament and then starting off kickball in March.
Where are you going to play flag football?
To be determined is what I'm told.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they're looking at a couple of different outfields, maybe like Lower Rippamani. I think they were talking about the outfields of the ASC. So not sure yet. But they're trying to be creative and ways it can go. And I think some of it's we have to figure out how many people we're going to have so we know what kind of fields we need. Any questions about recreation?
Kimberly, did you mention the parade? 'Cause I had a hard time hearing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, and thank you for judging, by the way. So yeah, we have Mike came out for our to judge, and so yeah, it was really good. We had over 130 entries for the parades, and then we had about 120 that actually were there for the parade, which was really neat. So it went off really well.
I want to thank you. I really enjoyed doing it. Hope you remember me again next year.
We will.
That
Yes.
whole, I'll say that whole weekend, we went on Friday to the Christmas tree lighting and on Saturday to the parade, and it was awesome to have something like that here in Victoria. I mean, the kids loved it. It kept everybody entertained. It was a lot of fun. So kudos to y'all for pulling that off.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had a lot of staff working really hard on it. And I know with our judges, they looked so well at the floats and they realized we were missing a category. So now we have a best car club category that we hadn't originally had. So thanks for the judges that came out. We had someone from our board, and then we had someone from the tourism board, Main Street board, and then the school district. So that was neat having our different commissions coming together to collaborate on something.
Well, thank you for doing the car, because I'll tell you what, we have, I think, 5 different car entries, different clubs, and some of those were beautiful, but they didn't fall in any of the categories. So thank you for recognizing the fact that they did do a lot of work for those cars, and I know the last entry, I think was 104, I believe, all the cars were lighted up, and I said, wow. And then the fancy ones are bouncing around, so, and we all talked about it, all the judges. They gotta have a category for cars, man. It was beautiful, so I'm glad you did that.
There's just as much pride and effort goes into the car clubs and decorating for them as the rest of the floats. So you definitely want to recognize people when they go that extra mile. So for the community too.
Well, I wanted to say that I watched it on Facebook, and it was they did such a good job. I mean, Cheryl, Martha, Johnny, and Joel Novosad, and then Ashley, I mean, doing the live commentary and the color commentary was great. It was very entertaining, and, made it worth, I mean, it was just really, really well done. So I appreciate everybody was dressed up and, engaged with the whole activity. So good, no, kudos to everybody.
And there's a big plus too for the elderly that can't come to the parade because of, not being able to walk or get around, and I guess that's a big plus to me.
That's
Yeah,
great
it
feedback.
really did take the entire city. I mean, we had multiple departments that were fully engaged with that. And so, yeah, it definitely took a lot. And we heard a lot of that too, positive feedback about the live streaming. So thank y'all.
Well, and even the guys cleaning up afterwards. I noticed as soon as the parade was done, there was an army of people, because people, leave trash on the side of the roads where they were picnicking and all that kind of stuff, and they were out there just picking it up right away. Just it's like what you see in New York, after like the New Year's parade and stuff like that. Like as soon as the parade's done, the cleaning crew, because business had to go back to normal tomorrow, and I'm sure all the people downtown appreciated not having trash sitting on their curbs. So.
Yeah, we had about 35 Parks and Rec crew out there supporting it. I know, I want to say all of our public information office was out there putting on the live streaming, and it really was all the departments, Public Works with the lights, and we borrowed 17 walkie-talkies for them because we don't regularly use that many throughout the year. So it was really great. IT was out there helping too, so everybody. HR with Cheryl, so.
Yeah.
Good job.
Kind of a piggyback off of that, something that y'all may not know is that we're starting to look differently at some of our events. So some of our larger event gatherings that say we have over 1,000 people, we are working with our emergency operations management team. And so we do have those emergency management plans in place whenever it does come down to large events just like the parade. And so we actually enacted our EOC for the Christmas parade. And so we did have police officers, we had fire department, we had basically everybody, all in one building, making sure that we didn't have any issues. And so just want y'all to be aware of that because there are, certain things that happen throughout this world, unfortunately. And so we want to prepare for that as best we can. So just FYI.
Yes, so we do briefings with them. We write up our plans. They write up their plans. So for both the Christmas events, we had just those details shared out. So as Jason mentioned, we look at over where we have an attendance of 1,000 people or more, or just a high risk like the youth hunting program. So we didn't have a super high attendance, but there was still a briefing and a plan in place just in case something did. So when we, we're meeting this week to go over TAF, and as we keep adding more events and bigger events, we'll continue doing it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Kimberly. So we'll move on to the golf course. I guess I could bring up Rolando now, but I'll go ahead and steal his thunder and just talk really quickly about the golf course division. And I apologize as well about the yellow. It's really hard to see up there. But nonetheless, I wanted to at least show you what November ended up closing out at. We had 88,340, looked like total revenue. In November, it looks like we had 97 tournament rounds. We had about 174 practice rounds, which gave us about 2,437 total rounds for the month. And then it's a little bit hard to see, even quite frankly on my screen. 12/18 looks like we have PAGA, and then of course on Christmas Day that we're going to be closed. So just kind of a heads up for you golfers out there. If you're trying to come to the course, we're going to be shut down on Christmas. Other than that, I mean, golf course maintenance division is really just kind of doing their day-to-day operations right now. It's just kind of slow going, if you will. So they're just continuing to maintain the fairways and the greens. Any questions on the golf course?
In regards to the golf course, are there any programs, say if a low-income family wants to join, or is it just single passes, or can you buy family memberships? And if you can do those memberships, are there any programs that help people who like golf but perhaps may not have that extra income to be able to do that? Because that's not just a sport like basketball you can just pick up and go shoot. For the most part, you need a facility to go practice and do that.
Right. No, that's a really good question. And to my knowledge, no, we don't. We don't have anything like that where there's, do we, Rolando, I can think of?
Not a free program.
Not free.
Yeah,
Not free.
Our short game area
Hey, Rolando.
is, yeah. We do have a practice area that's open to the public, just as the whole golf course is. But that practice area consists of a short game area, a green that can also be putted on, so that is a usable area at any time. That would require bringing your own golf balls, own few golf clubs to use in that area. Outside of that, everything would be paid for. We don't have a player development program yet. That is something that I am working on. And then we aren't going to have a low income program. We do have annual passes, but they are single passes. They are not family passes. Ours go as individual memberships based on our business plan and what we're trying to achieve with the golf course. So I don't have a different plan other than that. When that player development program becomes available, that will be something probably tiered to what you're kind of looking for. That player development program would also have use of the driving range and then our 5-hole practice course, which we are looking to expand a couple of more holes and add a couple holes back to that. So that would be a player development program where it'd be a lower cost, but it's a piece of the golf course where you can practice, get better, or somewhere where you can be comfortable, where you don't feel like you're interfering on the golf course until you get to that point and feel comfortable going out to the golf course. So that is the goal. There is a plan for that. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, but can you see how there might be, because there may be people that want to play golf that just,
Sure.
maybe there can be something, we can get creative to figure something out. Maybe if we're just sponsoring 1 or 2 passes a year, or just to be creative to have more people being able to access that. Because I'll be honest, there's a time I love golf, and I just couldn't afford to go for maybe like 2 years.
Sure.
And I was just almost there, but,
Sure.
so I just wanted to make sure to speak up on that.
Sure. We have speaking about that, the practice golf course is $7 to play. So that set of 5 holes, you can play that for $7. It's another $5 to take a golf cart. So for $12, you can play that loop a couple of times.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. So that's interesting.
Fairly cost-effective golf. That part of the golf course is just as good a shape as the rest of the golf course. So that little practice area is awesome. Again, we're trying to add a couple more holes back to that. So something that's good and getting better still. So definitely a cost-effective way to get out there for sure.
All right, thank you.
I mean, yeah, that's
cool.
$7 to play 5 holes of golf.
I didn't know.
You can't play putt-putt for golf.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, well, it's one of the numbers that are up here, the 174 practice rounds. That's 174 plays on that practice course.
Cool.
So I do track those, so we know how much play we're getting off of those and what our trend looks like, whether it's summer or winter, when people are using those things. We don't track those by ages or I guess types of player. It's just simply a number. It's a tally mark for how many people are out there. But we do keep track of it.
That's good to be able to get out and get some swings for a good price.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea about
For sure.
that.
Yeah, man, we want to make sure we keep a good value for the golf course,
All right,
for the
thank you.
community. So there's definitely something for everybody.
All right,
And
cool.
was it Rolando?
Yes, sir.
Rolando, do you have people ever inquiring about like rental sets or people coming that don't have clubs?
A few, yeah. We'll get one, I don't know, maybe once a month, maybe a couple a month. We have an old loaner set that was donated that we send out. Rental sets have been in my budget the past couple years. They have yet to be approved, but we're getting closer to that point. So that is something that's been included in my budget the past couple years. But just there's one of those little things that kind of gets cross-lined through. But I'll keep those on there for sure, because there's an avenue for that. There's a chance to send out rental sets and make our return back on that purchase. So that's definitely in the plans too. Just again, one of those little things, we're not there quite yet.
And do y'all rent the like walking carts as well as the drivable carts? Or?
I have a couple of them that we loan out that were provided to us from one of my vendors. That's been a good buddy of mine that wanted to get them out of his garage. So I told him I'd take them, and we lend them out to kids or whoever's walking, whoever wants to borrow one. So nothing that we charge for. We didn't pay for them, so we try to kind of pass that along. We're definitely more interested in the green fees than we are in charging for a pool card or something like that.
Sure.
But in the future, as we add to the rental sets, that's another one of the things that we'll want to add to that small fleet of pool carts. When we do that, and I know that they're fresh and new and clean, then we'll put some kind of a price tag or rental fee to them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have one last question. I'm
Go for
sorry.
it. No, wait,
If
go
I
for it.
wanted to rent a golf cart just to drive around the park, could I do that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was wondering because that'd be fun.
Stick them to the golf course. People have tried. We've had people that have been out in the golf course and we'll get a phone call like, hey, there's a golf cart down in Grover's Bend or whatever. Like, okay, we'll go look for it. So that is, GPS is one of the things we're working on for the golf carts. That would help me put a geo fence around the course to where a golf cart couldn't leave at all. And we're actually working on that stuff right now too.
End
So
up in the Guadalupe.
yeah, I mean, people drive them over McWright Road trying to go get a golf ball and stuff all the time. So it can be a little dangerous. But GPS is something we're working on and hoping to alleviate that issue. But yeah, no, you can't take them out to the park, not yet at least.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
We'd be stealing Ashley's thunder too.
Right?
She's giving
one
us that
quick
look
question.
like, hey, no.
One quick question, Jason.
Yes, sir.
The total to date on the numbers that you gave, the revenue numbers, that's fiscal year to date. City's fiscal year, is that what that is? Is
That's month to date.
that's month to date?
That's month to date, because our expenses are about right around that for our per month. So
Okay.
anything, if you look at that number and you think just, anything above 85, 88 is going to be revenue for us.
Those are just last 5 days, I guess you got that.
I'm sorry. So it's an Excel spreadsheet that spans over the entire
Yeah.
month. I just cut 3/4 of the month out, and that way you don't have a whole bunch of crazy numbers looking at you. But yes, sir, that's for the entire month of November.
What is golf capital replace charge? What is that?
Capital replacement charge? So we have Rolando Hernandez is our
Or
golf
something.
course professional. I was going to wait to introduce him, but I might as well now. So he's our golf course professional. And so Rolando really oversees the day-to-day operations over at the clubhouse, and he works hand in hand with Brian Woolard, who is our golf course superintendent. So the way I look at it, just me personally, inside, outside, those guys work hand in hand together really well. A huge asset to not only the city, but obviously the golf course. And so without further ado, here you go, Rolando.
So that capital replacement fee is it's an extra dollar that we put inside of the green fee. So we have a predetermined set of green fees each year, and outside of that number, we'll pull $1 back, put it into this capital replacement fee. It's basically a type of a savings account that we're trying to put together. So as we move along these next couple of years, we can start to build some kind of savings to be able to put back into the golf course without having to really dig into capital improvement projects or general fund or our own fund that we're creating at this point. Just gives us a little bit of set of money that we can use at some point as we get into some more of these projects for the golf course.
Awesome.
So that was something that Gilbert wanted to put in when we initially got going, and definitely a great idea for him to set us up with some kind of account like that, or at least a line item to be able to work off of.
Is that it? Okay, good. Thanks, man. I'll bring you back out here in just a second. We'll reintroduce him a little more formally next time. Okay, so community center. Really quickly, we have, over the last month, we've had about 25 rentals, 12 of those coming from the city of Victoria, 13 being non-city rentals. Some of the city versus non-city functions are listed to the left-hand side under that blue column. Really, the city functions included recreation programs, leagues, and some trainings. Non-city functions included some weddings, quinceañeras, banquets, et cetera. And then one of the facility projects that we're continuing to work on is the HVAC design for the dome, and that's still undergoing with M&S Engineering. Any questions on the community center?
Yeah, have we had any more thought on the recreation? I know perhaps there was discussion on not adding a recreation center in Victoria, but converting the community center into one. That's something I'd like to see happen.
Sure.
See, running classes out of there, running all kinds of things, making, whether it's a basketball court, being still able to have the dances and stuff like that. That's just something that I'd love to see. And as far as the community center, also, why are those restrooms locked behind the park? Why do they always stay locked?
Oh, in the community center park?
Yeah, in the area near the splash pad, they're just always locked.
Yeah, we've had, so there's a couple things there. So first, the community center, yes, we are working with our recreation division. We definitely want to utilize the community center more for recreation programs. One of those things that we realized is Monday through Thursday, how well off that we could use that community center just because of the lack of rentals that we have throughout the weekday. We actually started using the community center in partnership with another outside organization for cornhole. And so they've been using that community center for those kinds of programs. That's just the start of it. I mean, we definitely want to continue that trend and expand on that even more. It's just a matter of time. And quite frankly, we just filled our Parks and Recreation Superintendent position, and I'll be introducing that superintendent to you in February. But nonetheless, he just started this past week, and he's already made some tremendous strides in meeting with the Recreation Division and talking about some of the needs and some of the gaps in services. And that is definitely a part of the conversation: is what can we use the community center for, and how can we continue to use it Monday through Thursday. The second piece of that was the community center park restrooms, and that's, again, another piece that we're working on right now with the new superintendent. We actually had some conversations internally about it. A lot of it had to do with vandalism. There seems to be an uptick, kind of, if you will, in vandalism at the community center park. Some of it now being focused on the pickleball court, and that's something that we're trying to address not only internally with our own department, but also with PD, and that way we can open up those restrooms and have it make sense to open them up. I know another issue with that was just the timing, and so electronic locks on some of those doors that seem to be problematic in regards to vandalism. That's to be quite frank with you, I mean, that's going to be one of the first spots that we look at, putting some electric door locks.
They got to be open. Those are restrooms, and it's just they got to be open. You have one set of restrooms right there by the basketball court. There's no difference in vandalism, and you can do the same thing to both restrooms. And in regards to recreation, what does that cost? You say you partner with Cornhole. What do they pay up front to do something like that? If some, maybe I want to have a washer league there. What do I got to pay?
Well, and those are getting into specifics, and so I would say if you want to have some kind of a tournament, just reach out to us, and we can definitely talk about that.
Well, no, I'm
Each
just
one of
asking.
our
I thought you'd know.
Well, I mean, because there's nothing formal. I mean, so what we do is formalize a partnership with these organizations, and it can be something as easy as a 70-30 split when it comes to revenue, or it can be a 50-50 split, which is currently what we're partnering with this organization on, is a 50-50 split.
But usually no up front?
From front cost to them? No,
Correct. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
no, not in that regard.
All right, cool.
But again, everything is a little bit different when it comes to different kind of programs. And so
Okay.
if there's something that you're wanting to put on, definitely reach out to us and see what we can do about making it happen.
Well, I just want to have that information, so when other people have that idea, I can let
Sure.
them know, instead of all these people having ideas but know where to go to get the information on how to do it. Well, now I have a little information, and I can let them know if I come across and they're speaking to me.
Sure, absolutely.
Can
Yeah,
I expand on that just
yeah,
a little
go
bit?
for it.
So what those conversations usually look like is either someone from the community, or we know of an organization that can put on something that has the resources that we don't. And we sit down with whoever that organizer is, and we say, this is kind of what we need from it. Like, this is what we would like to see you be able to put on. This is what we're able to bring. And we look at doing like a 70-30 split or a 50-50 split, just whatever it is that both parts are being able to equally come into. So we usually take those registrations, not usually, we take those registrations and then we pay out. We do have formal contracts.
And they
So,
talk to who? Who do they reach out to?
lately, it's been me, but now that we have a Parks and Recreation superintendent, it'll be him.
All right, thank you.
So, yep. But I mean, any of our rec coordinators, some of these conversations start with them, and they pull it up and they bring it to us. So it's just making sure that it's a good fit, that what that organization's trying to do does align with our mission. So that's a big piece of it too. So it's not like we just go partner with anybody for any reason. We make sure it aligns with what it is that we're wanting to offer the community.
Could,
And we want to make sure that we don't duplicate services too. That's another piece of it. And so we're actually talking internally about what kind of criteria are we going to put up against some of these people that are asking for partnerships.
Correct me if I heard wrong. Are you trying to tell me that if I want to put on an event, there's a certain different fee than just renting
No.
out the annex?
No. Event and program are two different things.
Okay.
A program is a program that we're trying to put on for the community in regards to actually having an interactive activity,
You
like
mentioned that-
cornhole,
yeah.
pickleball, those kinds of things. An event we're looking at as Christmas on the Square. or,
Or someone doing,
Or
like you're talking
parade.
about a wedding or a reception, something
Correct.
like
That's what I'm
that.
talking about.
Right.
yeah, no, it's completely
Yeah.
different. When it comes to private events versus an organization that wants to partner with us on a private-public partnership such as Flow Paddle, that's a completely different, those are two completely different beasts.
Right. You could have an event with everybody playing cornhole at your event. That's fine. You could just pay the rental and play cornhole all you want, I
Correct.
guess. But to put on a program that involves the public with something, that would need to align with the
But
with
who's
the
it gonna
recreation.
align with? What if the
Well, the-
superintendent don't even play? You know, who are we aligning with? What person, or is there a committee? Or I'm not sure I'm following whose
think it's
vision.
anyone with Parks and Rec Department, you can
Okay.
contact them.
All right, thank
We-
you.
For
do
example,
have
like
a
Ashley
mission.
puts on a service, like having Flow Paddle in the park, that's a private entity aligned with the public for the greater good of everybody. Like everybody has access to Flow Paddle. She gets to make money off of it because it's her private business, but as part of that, there's a partnership between the city and a private entity.
No, I understand that part.
Okay.
No, I understand that part.
Okay. Well, any further questions on community center? Okay.
We have our own. I got a lot of questions.
Well, and again, if there are specific questions that's not related to this, please feel free to reach out to me. And then I wanted to give you a quick update on some of the projects that we have currently undertaking within the department. So we're, of course, we're working on the soccer fields. Y'all may think they're completely finished, but they're not. We do have one field that is still waiting to be completed. We're working with the contractor to get that completed. The timing on it is just a little off because of the winter time in the spring as far as the grass growing. And so we're looking at hopefully finishing that up at the beginning of next year. And then we have the duck pond. That's still under TPWD review. We should have all that information back, hopefully by the end of this month, from the state. But nonetheless, we're still working on the bidding packets, and so we'll be anticipating the go-ahead from TPWD and moving forward with a RFQ, or RFP, I'm sorry, at the beginning of next year. Sorry, that yellow is throwing me off. I can't see it even up here. Splash pad. We were working on an RFP, and we had to basically scratch it and come back. We're going to change the RFP to a design build proposal. And so we're actually finishing that up right now, and hopefully we'll have that out by the end of the year. But that's going to be coming up. And then the dog park. We were actually able to, we had some funding available for the dog park through VSTDC. And of course, working with the Girl Scout that came up here and presented to you, Miss Izzy Drain, and working with her, we're moving forward with the dog park consulting portion of it, which is actually going to be done by Brent Luck out of Luck Construction. They're the ones who are working on the duck pond. And so he has some historical knowledge, I guess, back in 2015 with the dog park in Colby. And so, yeah, so we're already working on that. And so surveys are going to be, should be out there sometime this week, starting to conduct surveys at that triangle piece that I presented to y'all last month. And then we have our CDBG lighting. Not sure if y'all have seen it or not, but there was a total of 7 LED lights that were installed in Pine Street Park and Queen City Parks. That was really awesome. So it was a nice upgrade to those two parks. We're also undertaking our facility improvements, which are being made to Riverside Stadium. That's for TAF. And so those are still ongoing. You know, quite frankly, we probably got about another 2 or 3 weeks worth of work out there, and then they'll be wrapped up with that. And then, sorry, a facilities assessment. So this is an additional assessment that we're going to be working on this upcoming year that'll be specific to the parks and recreation facilities. And so that'll help guide us even more in the future in regards to our facilities and where we need to improve. And then one of the last big projects that we're working on is working with the Victoria Main Street program and some of their CIP items for De Leon Plaza as well as Memorial Park. Those are just the top big ones, if you will. So,
Jason,
Yes, sir.
question with you. On that, I noticed you have the De Leon Plaza.
Uh-huh.
Has Miss De Leon ever come back to you?
No, sir.
Remember, she presented a presentation about building a statue of Martin De Leon, and a certain portion of the De Leon Plaza was assigned that she could use to build a monument. She ever come back or anything?
Not to my knowledge, but I'll double check on that.
Yeah, 'cause I know that she came, you were here, right, when she came in?
I vaguely remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah, she came here, made a presentation that they wanted to put a Martin de Leon statue there at the De Leon Plaza, right in the corner.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to Danielle and see if there's been any follow-up conversation from that end.
Lance de Leon.
Okay. Okay. Sure thing. But that's all I have for y'all if y'all don't have any other questions.
Anybody have other questions for?
Anybody have any advice to give for the advisory board?
All right. Well, if not, then next on the agenda is a discussion of top priorities and budget for the Parks Master Plan.
Is there any, can I back up just a second, Mr. Keeling, and see if anybody has any questions for Rolando? Rolando, would you like to kind of give him a background, if you don't mind? Could I give,
Sure, no,
have
yeah,
Rolando give y'all a
absolutely.
background? As I mentioned earlier, Rolando's our golf pro, so I think he just wants to say a few words, and if you have any questions for him, please. He's got a target right here too, so.
All right, good evening, everybody. Rolando Hernandez, I'm a head golf professional here for Riverside Golf Course. I've been with the city since 2017 when the city took the golf course back over. I was hired to kind of help get everything rolling again, so I've seen it from where it was in 2017 to where it's at now. Much improved, much better position, both course condition-wise and financially. We've got a pretty good thing going for the golf course right now. We're definitely still in the infant stages of trying to grow, collect data, understand our number of rounds, what our potential is, make sure that we stay in a price range that's a good value for our community, but still pays the bills and provides some extra for capital improvement projects or projects in the future. So we're not feeding ourselves out of a general fund or anything else. So still the goal. We want it to be a value for the community. But we also wanted to have good course conditions. So all those things kind of go hand in hand in making sure that we're putting those things together. A little bit of background on myself. I grew up in Goliad. I'm from the area. We moved back, I guess in 2016 we moved back. I was in San Antonio for a dozen years. I went up there for school. Graduated from UTSA in 2009. I was the head golf professional with the Quarry Golf Club in San Antonio from 2010 to 2016. I've been a Class A member since 2014, February 2014, so I've been a Class A for almost 8 years now. And yeah, once I left the Quarry, I took actually a separate job in the restaurant industry and opened a restaurant and was operations manager for a restaurant and a bar that was one common owner. Did that for a year, and then we decided to move back down to Goliad. We've got a son that's got Down syndrome. We had wanted to move him into a smaller community. That was always the plan. And then when my father passed away, we decided to move back to Goliad and kind of do both at one time. Help my mom kind of get going with the rest of her life and get my son into a smaller school, which is what we always wanted to know. Got a lot of friends that are teachers and now principals and counselors and all that other good stuff. So it's a good feeling to send him to school and knowing that he's being taken care of. So the area's worked out well. The job just kind of happened to work out at the same time. So sometimes things just all fall together and work out. So it's been great. The project's been awesome. The golf course is doing very well. Most of it is stemmed from just improved course conditions. The golf course was pretty rough when the city took over. At one point it was 27 holes. I don't know how many of you guys remember that. That's how I played it when I was growing up. Played it several times growing up. So it used to be 27 great holes. At the time the city took over, it was a mix of 18 holes. Of the 27, they used 18, and almost all 18 of those were down to temporary greens. So basically they just had a circle cut out in the fairways and we're putting on fairways. So from there to where we're at now is night and day. And it's been awesome. The project's been awesome. The golf course is doing well. We've been able to do a few additions over the past year. We've added 20 more golf carts to our fleet. So we started with originally 50 of them. We're able to add 20 more to them. And that's just helped with number of rounds that we can get in, but just overall efficiency for the golf course. We got stuck in a pretty tight spot last year as COVID hit. Golf was one of the few outdoor recreations or few things that you could go out and do and weren't as many restrictions. There were still restrictions, but not as many. So like everybody else, we saw an uptick in golf. And that really led to this cart conversation, making sure that we could be efficient, get people out to the golf course, not turn people away. And that's really shown itself in August, September. While we were busy, we were able to deal with the busyness, and the staff saw the biggest improvement to where they weren't running around like crazy or just 100 miles an hour all day long. They've been able to just efficiently keep up with everything. So that's been a great change. Kind of mentioned the GPS that we're working on right now. We're working on getting final approval to add GPS to our golf carts. And again, that just gives us another piece of control and efficiency for the golf course. Lets us know where people are at. If people are being wild on the golf course, which we get a few of them here and there that are not going to treat the carts as well as they should. So that'll help us keep track with some of those things. Gives us some opportunity for advertisement. Really helps us hang on to course conditions, just because it'll give us a chance to block some of the areas that people can drive to, how close they can get to greens or tee boxes or other areas we don't want them in, or driving a cart outside of the golf course in the first place. So a couple of big things. Our original 50 golf carts are in their 5th year of their lease. So I'm excited to trade those in next year and get into a new set of 50. Those have definitely gotten worn out. They'll make it until that point, but it'll be nice to be able to switch those around and get those updated as well. Questions about the golf course? Quick little rundown. We're also working on having our greens redone. That's been in our capital improvements project for the city, which is right now kind of waiting on a grant that we are working on to see if we can get some of that funded and paid for. So we are actually have been working with Katie, our grant advisor, on getting that stuff done, and she sent me over a list of things that I need to do. So I'll be working on that stuff the rest of this month. But nonetheless, something that would be awesome for the golf course and the community as a whole, getting to redo those greens. Superintendent Brian has done an awesome job. Again, mentioned this earlier, just the overall course conditions is what's really changed how that golf course operates. As the course conditions improved, we've seen rounds of golf come back. People, not only from our community, but people that travel as well. We'll see people that'll come up from Corpus, just outside of Houston, just south of San Antonio. So there's a good hour to hour and a half range that we'll see people will drive as long as the golf course is worth it. And it might not be a once a month thing, but if it's once a quarter, all those rounds add up. So we'll take all of those. So with improved course conditions, we've definitely seen rounds go along with it.
So Rolando, let me ask you, do you think this increase in play that you saw during COVID is something that'll stay? I mean, it seems hard for me to think that people would, having spent more time playing, that they're going to cut back playing.
I think it's going to stick around because COVID's not completely gone away. There's still a lot of indoor activities.
Tell, but
yeah, but I think it's also kind of reignited a little bit of a passion for people that weren't playing as much. So those guys is the ones that'll really stick around, or should stick around if they, if it peeled out them even a little bit, then they're wanting to play a little bit more than what they used to. And if it's 3 or 4 times a year instead of once or twice, that's great. That's another couple of rounds for us. And, if it's 100 people that do that, then we're talking about a few hundred rounds. So all those small numbers individually look small, but when you add those things up together, it's, can be several $1,000s. So just a different perspective to look at it. But I do think those rounds of golf are going to stick around. We saw a very good trend prior to COVID of our rounds of golf going up. It was real hard for me last year to say that our numbers and our increase in rounds of play were directly attributed to COVID. I'm sure it helped, but the golf course was already getting better. So I'm always kind of reserved on saying COVID did it for us. The golf course.
I'm just looking for bright spots.
Yeah, but the golf course, the rounds have stayed even through this summer being a year removed. Number of rounds of golf have been the same. We're just as good as last year. So I definitely think it's something that's going to stick around. Our community has plenty of rounds to give. It was getting the course back to condition that people felt it was a value. There's a dollar that's attached to it, and you want to make sure that you get your worth out of that dollar. So I think that's really where we've gotten the rounds from, is just creating that product that's just worth it.
I got 2 questions.
Go for it.
One is, what's been your biggest challenge since working here? And 2 is, what is your most needed thing right now that Parks and Recreation could help you out with?
Biggest challenge was really just the condition of the golf course, and dealing with the previous members that were a little bit reserved on us changing price increments and how we were charging. We really had to get that part of it straight to make sure that our revenues were going to at least cover our bills. And the first couple of years were the toughest, trying to again, put a value to a product that you're providing that may not have been in some people's eyes that good or that much of a value, and getting to that point to where it was, and that's where we're at now. So that was definitely a challenge of getting past that portion of it, but we're past that, and we don't want to go back to there. So tough time, but we're well past that. We've got a lot of very good supporters for the golf course, so that part of it's been awesome. As far as support from from the Parks Division. Man, actually, since Jason's been here, it's been awesome. We've done a couple of things that people really probably don't hear about or see about. We were able to replace our irrigation pump for the golf course, and he did that within the first couple of months. He was able to get approval and get funding and all that stuff going for that. That thing had been sitting there for about 30 years. Was if nothing else a risk or a hazard. We've got the capital improvement project for the greens that's there. The GPS is there. We were able to excuse me, add these 20 extra golf carts. Really, it's just been sitting down with Jason and getting the time to kind of throw some ideas at him and see how he can help me get those things to move forward. As far as a direct need, probably would just be some additional staff, but that would be everybody in the city. I'm sure there's every department that would say, hey, we could use some more hands and use some more people. So, but that would definitely be a need for not only the clubhouse side, but also our maintenance side. A couple of extra hands would never hurt. You bet.
Rolando, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you guys for having me this evening.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you all.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was that's one of the first, and I was talking with Chairman Keeling about this, but I really want to make sure that you all know who our leadership team is in our department, and Rolando is one of them. And so every other month we'll end up bringing one of our leadership team staff members to one of our team members here, just to make introductions, and that way y'all become a little bit more familiar with our team, and they come a little bit more familiar with you. So. Thank you, Rolando. Appreciate it. And no, I didn't ask him to say that stuff about me either. So.
What is the name of your new superintendent?
Stephen Gallagher.
Stephen Gallagher. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
From Chicago. Far away.
Yeah, some of y'all may have met him already.
I met him already. Right, Kimberly?
Sorry, I don't know
All
what
right.
the next item was. I'm sorry.
E3. So I think you had it. There you go.
That's good.
That's it.
Okay, so with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, I wanted to first thank y'all for everything that y'all did with the master plan. Just reviewing it and giving me comments back and all of that fun stuff. It was a very thick document, so thank you for the time that you put into it. There's two parts to this. One is the CIP part that I want to discuss with y'all. And then there's a second part of it that is not CIP related that I want to discuss with y'all as well. So the first piece of it is the CIP, which is Capital Improvements Projects. We were asked by our city manager's office to come up with five projects, if you will, that we would like to present to the city council. Now, I would have loved to have been able to present this to you as a commission prior to giving it to our city council. Our timing on it, though, just did not work out as our city council workshop was last Friday. So nonetheless, I wanted to at least go through this with you, and you let me know what you think about it. And if you don't like it, let me know and tell me what we need to replace in there. So one of the first things that, here's the first five, and really that's all it was five that we presented to them. So Martin Luther King Park, we felt like we could go ahead and put the entire park in there. We felt like it was a very worthwhile park to go ahead and complete. It was one of the conceptuals that we had. We thought it would be great, A, because it's our southernmost neighborhood park that we have. B, it would be, that's funny. B, it would also be a complete park if we ever got it funded. And so it would be a really great example of what we can do with all the other parks that we have within our community if we wanted it to have the complete park look. So we added Martin Luther King Park to the CIP list, $1.2 million project. Okay. The next one was Ethel Tracy Park. While Ethel Tracy Park was about $3 million for the entire conceptual, maybe even up to $4 million, we did feel like there were two aspects that we really needed to take care of right off the top. One of those was the roadway. And so extending the roadway to allow two entrances into the park with additional parking, that was one of the main concerns and comments that we continue to have from just from the community. And so if we look at that and we say, okay, hey, we're going to open up the roadway at the two entrances now and just make all this more traffic, what was the next thing? Well, the next thing was parents taking the kids to the restroom across the street over at the amphitheater. And so it made sense, if we're going to open up this roadway, that we need to add the additional restrooms near the splash pad and the playground, so that way the kids and the parents don't have to cross the busy street, the now even busier street, if we open this up. And so that was the thinking behind those two pieces of this particular project.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did the roadway extension and allowance for the two entrances, did that involve the acquisition of any additional property on this end of the?
The way that it was put into the estimated construction cost, I believe so.
Okay.
And that would mirror what this number is right here.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So we're looking at basically spending $1 million to add a road to a park.
Open up the roadway, yes.
Okay. And then 250 to add the restrooms, and that would be all out of that conceptual plan that would be done to.
That is
Ethel
correct.
Tracy.
Yes, sir. So in addition to the roadway, not only the roadway opening up, but there would be additional parking. And that was part of that concern too, of just not enough parking when it comes to some of the events with the amphitheater.
So that additional roadway exit, is it Salem? What's the road? What's the main street?
Placido Benavides.
Yes,
That one?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
So did it include the extended roadway? Did it also include reconfiguring the roadways inside? Or is it just?
Inside the park, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
do we get the roadway behind the amphitheater that we talked about?
No, so I apologize. No, that's not it. So everything that you see here in the gray that would constitute a major roadway, that big loop, that would be everything that would be within this $1 million projection.
Okay.
And that roadway, in addition to that extended parking off of that roadway.
Down here.
Okay.
Because it ends right here, so this, and then basically an L into the center of the park.
Okay.
I mean, I don't,
That was my question, did you build up to behind the theater? Because it's hard to bring equipment up there.
To the amphitheater? Yeah, we can look at what that additional cost would be. And if y'all are open to it, I have no problem looking at that and seeing if we can add that to that CIP. That could potentially, mitigate some issues with regards to the amphitheater.
I've talked to several people about using that theater, and they say, well, the biggest problem is having to carry all the equipment up the hill and then down the hill, so.
Right.
and I know that was one of the, I guess, the struggles when they did the duck safari
Yeah.
was having vehicles on the grass because of, I guess, the fire marshal, and like they couldn't park food trucks or anything like that on the grass. And so how do they get stuff out there on the grass without like leaving it there, and what kind of are the rules there? So
Okay. So yeah, we could take a look at that and see what that extension may be. Kind of, I guess, at the closest part from the parking lot, and what we can do to extend it to the back of that amphitheater. Is that what you're referring to, right? Okay.
Do we all agree with that? I think so.
It's a lot easier to carry the equipment
Yeah,
than just
I
unload
think
that.
so, and I don't think we should be conservative when we're talking about price for our most beautiful park.
Yeah.
This is an investment well worth it, and then as far as the city goes, this is one of the only programs that's directly tied to health and well-being. So I think we shouldn't be conservative with this.
I guess I have a little bit, I think the restrooms are a great idea. I guess I struggle with spending, the vast majority of the money not, I guess, on a road in a park? Like, I just don't see, like, is there that little parking, like, that we have to have the road, that the road is the number one priority for that park?
Well, quite frankly, some of the thinking behind it was, what if we don't open the road to the park and we want to have something at the amphitheater? The problem is that we heard there was no parking. I mean, we could only get, X amount of people, and we needed more parking. And so, the way that we looked at it is, if we're able to open up that parking, open up that flow, then you have more potential for more programming that you can do at the amphitheater or at some of this open green space. And so that was the reasoning behind that. But if we want to look at adding that piece to it to make the amphitheater that much more, enticing, if you will, that's kind of the reason why we did the road.
All right.
It's not, of course, I don't look at it as the end of the development of Ethel Lee Tracy Park. I mean, we still have the conceptual plan, the rest of the conceptual plan out there.
Right.
How do you prioritize the first significant dollars into something like that? And, I guess one way to look at it is maybe to say, well, you kind of do the infrastructure part first, because once you begin to program stuff at the amphitheater that you're not doing now, or you get more people into the park using what's there, you're gonna have a better constituency. I mean, it's gonna be easier for council to go back and hear people going, hey, you need to finish up these other parts of the plan. We like that park a lot. And I think that may be one way of sort of looking at how this develops. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right.
To get it done.
So in your mind, is this kind of like phase one? Like, these are the 5 things that they want to do, like, this year, or they want to start this year? How does that?
So the CIP has kind of undergone a different structure. And what our city manager is wanting us to do is present 5 large projects that are within our parks and or within our master plans, and present it to the city council. City council is going to look at this, and this is going to be over a 5-year period. And so each department, Public Works, Main Street, all of these different departments have a lot of these CIP projects that they're putting into this. And so it's not just us asking for CIP money, it's, multiple departments. And so that's the reason why we picked just top 5. But yes, I do foresee this being a marathon and not a sprint. Each year continuing to add to it, but yes, it's a 5-year plan for the city council.
Gotcha.
And this is just part of the master plan for Ethel Lee Tracy, just prioritizing it, right?
Correct, yes, sir. That's part of it. Right. And that'll be the follow-up of what we discussed on the second part. It's kind of the smaller projects, if you will, that we can taste within our budget, and not necessarily these CIP. So CIP is defined as $100,000 or more and has a lifespan of 10 years or more.
Gotcha.
So Jason, inside that roadway extension, does that include pedestrian sidewalks or paths or trails?
No, ma'am. I believe that was strictly asphalt, parking, those things,
Okay.
Curb and gutter. So any other questions on Ethel Lee Tracy or comments? Okay. Okay, I'll look at what that addition would be for the amphitheater and see if we can get that on there as well. I'll send it up city manager's office. Okay, and so I just mentioned, it's funny because I almost just mentioned to you $100,000, right? But you see some 50,000 and 30,000 here, but cumulatively it would total more than the 100,000. So what we're looking at is some park gateway signs. This would be for Riverside Park, Ethel Lee Tracy Park, and Ted B. Reed Park. Quite honestly, we have a agenda item on City Council meeting tomorrow to accept some donations from one of the foundations. And so that would cover one of these parks, a good portion of it, if not all of it. But nonetheless, we definitely wanted to look at the gateway signs for Riverside Parks. That would be all the entrances to Riverside Park. So you're talking about a total of about $200,000 roughly for those signs. Ethel Lee Tracy Park, again, we picked that one because just the nature of it, as well as the foundation that was able to donate the funding for it. And then Ted B. Reed Park, we looked at simply because it's one of the, I guess it's the second most used park, second most rented park, or the pavilions, and so it's one of our very heavily used parks off of Salem. So, and in addition to that, if we were going to go ahead and take care of Martin Luther King Park, that would already be knocked out. That part of the project would already be incorporated within that 1.2 million
The signage would be part of the 1.2 million
for Martin Luther King.
MLK Park, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Has there ever been discussion of flags? I noticed, do we have any flags at any of our parks, like the American flag?
Yeah, we have some.
Okay.
I mean, they're not at every single park, no,
Right.
but we do have some.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if I had seen any. I just think that'd be a neat idea. I thought I'd mention it.
Sure. No, I'm all for it. I'm used to having flagpoles in majority of the parks too, so I'm with you on that. We can definitely look at that as a budgetary item.
We definitely have them at all of our big ball fields, like Riverside Stadium, the
Yep.
youth sports complex, and
Okay.
the adult sports complex.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. I was waiting to see if I got a smile.
I was trying to keep my cool.
Yeah, I saw that. Good job. So the next one was Riverside Park Boat Ramp and Kayak Takeout. These, actually, quite honestly, these next two are going to be related to sports tourism. But the way that we look at this is sports tourism on the river. We have a lot of people who utilize the river, obviously, and it's something that we want to highlight more of in Victoria. And so we're looking at a $1.1 million for a new location of the kayak takeout. And it would increase parking, it would have a covered pavilion, and in addition to that, it just enhances our sports tourism opportunities for the river. And just to be honest with you, I mean, the location of where it's at, I think we mentioned this before, location of the current takeout is not the best location. It's right next to the pump house. There's a lot of vehicles that are parked right there. The incline is just ridiculous. And so there's just a lot of hurdles with our current takeout. And, finding a new location for it and potentially applying for grant funding. We're looking at that as well to apply for some grants. I believe that's going to be due in February. For this $1.1 million as well. So, any questions?
Love it.
Do people spray off their boats when they're done, or?
I mean, we spray off the boats,
Oh, okay.
but
Because
when
I was wondering if there's something next to that.
there's nothing over there to do
Okay,
that,
I was
but
just an idea.
but when we rent them, we clean them off afterwards,
No, but that
especially
is
with
standard procedure to clean them.
Yes.
There's no running water down there right now for anything.
So behind our office, there's the city uses like a little water hose thing to spray up the trailers and stuff like that. So we wash them back there. So behind our building.
And are there alligators in there and stuff?
No.
No?
No.
That was a quick answer.
I've been wanting to
Alligator
do it.
gar.
Okay. I just wondering because
Water moccasins.
I believe so.
Nothing bad in there.
I've seen one alligator. I've been going for 6-7 years, and I've seen one, and it was like 4 feet.
Okay.
So it's okay. You're safe.
well, no, you're in a boat. That's
Exactly,
good.
you're in a boat. I could
just
swim
wondered
in
if I
that
wanna Let
water.
my feet hang out.
He was thinking about a tube.
Like, we swim, we kayak, and I've never had an incident with anything in the water. So
that's
that's
good to
good.
know.
Yes. Like they're scared of us, like you are scared of them.
Yeah.
Who's going to be doing the design, and how have they planned on, I guess, dealing with the floods that seem to happen every year, at least once a year?
So that's a really great question. I'm going to pass that off to Kimberly, but before I do that, because she's been working on this, we actually had money in the budget this current year to replace the current kayak takeout. That was one of the hiccups when we started talking to the manufacturer about our river and how it fluctuates. That was an issue that it was going to be broken, like I think after a 15-foot rise. So it would have been done, 2 months ago. But I'll defer that to Kimberly as she's been working on that.
Yeah, so last year there was about $35,000 budgeted to getting new kayak dock, but that kayak dock involved a 10-foot ramp. In order to be ADA compliant, we need a 15-foot ramp. And since that river floods regularly, we also needed to have flood anchors, not regular anchors, into the side to the riverbank. And then with how much the river fluctuates, it goes anywhere between like 6 feet and like 31 feet. So that 10 to 15-foot ramp, it would just put so much pressure on the ramp itself. So once we got a 15-foot ramp, the price was about $52,000. So we did not have $52,000 budgeted, but we do see an opportunity with TPWD for a boating access grant. And the way that this grant works is you apply for a grant for a planning. You apply for a planning grant, and then they give funds to get a firm to do all of your drawings and do all that research for you, and then that rolls into the funding grant in order to be able to pay for whatever was created.
That's definitely something that we're taking into consideration is the fluctuation of the river.
And, I mean, there has to be, is there not no way, and this might not have to be the park's problem, but to address the flooding, because I've looked it up on the internet, and I've seen other cities, they've done creative things to address the flooding, and well, we're always seeing it as a problem. That will there ever be a time where we're actually trying to fix our, you know,
Right.
at least cause it to not be so bad?
I definitely understand where you're coming from on that. You know, I think one of the unfortunately unique things about the way that our river floods that I'm not used to, I actually just talked with Kimberly about this, is I'm used to having a park on a river and the river flooding and it just comes over the banks and it floods everything out. Here it's different. Here the river can come up and it can go outside of its banks, and it actually doesn't even really go outside of its banks in the park. It's everything that leads to the river. So it's all the drainage ways, everything that leads to the river gets backed up and it floods. And that's where majority of our flooding comes from, that's within the park. And so for me, that's completely different. That's something that I'm not used to. And quite frankly, I don't really know if there is anything that we could do about that. That would be something that I'd have to talk with our public works engineer and our floodplain manager about and see what we could potentially do.
But, and you said drainage, and that's just due to the flooding, or is that due to previous lack of maintenance, or I'm not too familiar with draining.
Because drainage leads down into the river, and
Okay.
so when the river gets to a certain point, that water can't do anything but back up.
Right.
And that's where our issue is it gets to a point to where, I don't think it really has to do with the lack of maintenance, it's just capacity.
Yeah, so I wasn't too familiar with.
Yeah.
I thought, I was imagining pipes when you were saying drainage.
Right.
So,
Just open ditches.
but so if there was some, I don't know, just throwing it out there, some way the river would go into a different area and fill up, then perhaps that could prevent some flooding. And that's just an idea.
sir.
I mean, I wish, like you said, that may not be the park's problem.
Right.
Perhaps some of us who may know people in the city council or whatever can promote that, maybe to push doing something about the flood. So,
Yeah, we even looked at, I think when I first got here, there was a huge grant opportunity, and we were throwing some random thoughts out there about, hey, why don't we construct a dam? You know, right up river and control how much water is coming through Victoria. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Need a
unfortunately.
reservoir to go with the dam.
That's
the problem.
Yeah,
We're so far
that's
downstream.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was one of those random ideas. Not all ideas are good ones, right?
hey, at
No
least
bad
it's an
ideas.
idea.
Right?
No, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
San Antonio, the San Antonio River inside San Antonio is remarkable. And they've got those locks and stuff.
Oh, yeah?
I was just looking at them yesterday, as they go up but I mean, what they've been able to do, I don't know how they've done it, is they've got, I think, a reservoir above, and then they control the flow down through the city, and it just stays in those banks, but.
Got another question, for you, Jason.
Sure.
In reference to the boat ramp, if you're facing the pump house, is it gonna be built to the right or the left of the pump house?
To the right.
To the right?
Yes, sir.
So come into the park?
Upstream.
coming in from the park,
Upstream.
yes.
Park at the pump house and go eat.
It's on the left right now, it'll be on the right.
Correct, yes, sir.
Yes.
You know, like,
And the existing put-in is gonna
It's going to stay the same.
stay
Pull
the
it up
same?
Yes,
over
yeah,
there
we
and then
would
get
just
out and go eat. Uh-huh.
be looking at an upgrade to that boat ramp, to that
Yes.
boat ramp area that is currently being used as a put-in.
So yeah, that would be looked at as getting expanded as well, because right now it's really challenging to turn around, and if people are parked, that's not going to happen very well. People just have to drive backwards, and with trailers, that's really challenging. So we are looking at doing a whole expansion of that, if with the grant, which would be great.
So Jason, with
Yes,
these
sir.
improvements, got a question that might not be real popular with one of the commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
But will this welcome additional canoe, kayak, tubing companies to come in, perhaps even outside of the park, to offer tourism into, like they do in every other river?
Right.
I would say yes. I mean, I can help you answer that one because there are other outfitters. I mean, there's there's one that's in Thomaston, well, right before you get to Cuero, and they do come pick up people from the boat
Okay.
ramp at Riverside.
And
So,
the
and I
main
met,
reason for the question was, is it an additional revenue opportunity, as I'm sure Flow Paddle Co. pays?
Sure.
Would those need to be licensed or some type of permit done on an annual basis to allow those to use the city facilities?
Right. No, that's a really good question, and that's something that, quite honestly, is a conversation that I'm having with Mike too. Is where do we put a stop to monetary gain utilizing our park system for free?
Right.
And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, right? Is
Exactly.
where do we combat that? Where do we draw the line? And
There's
that
nothing stopping somebody coming in with a van and
Right.
tubes like they do on every other river in
And,
Texas.
and we want that, right? We want
Right.
that. We want those individuals to come in and utilize it. But if you're utilizing it for a different reason, that's where you get your paycheck from. Then that's a different conversation.
Okay.
But I definitely understand where you're coming from. That's just a piece that we still haven't cleared up yet.
Okay, fair enough.
like for me, there's requirements. I mean, you have to have a general liability policy. Like if one of those other companies, they don't, I mean, like you said, it could just be people
Right.
that threw tubes in the
They
back.
can have a van and a
Right.
trailer and just start
And so that
taking
could,
people and picking
that
them
could be a
up for takeout.
liability,
Right.
right? So, and then if they're not following, the basic rules too, because you're expected to have certain things on a kayak. And if they don't know, like, that you need the life jacket, the paddle, like, even at nighttime, we don't offer any rides that go past a certain time because then you're required to have a whistle and a light, and there's additional things that you have to have. And so, I mean, those, like, we don't see a lot of it. Like, I've only met a couple of other, I guess, I don't even know that they're companies. There's one that I know that it's a company, but like I know that there was this one boat that they have this massive canoe and it has like 20 people that can go on it and they rent that out and you can ride that from Cuero down. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, even just to see it
My
transported.
thought was if you make it this attractive, other people will come and try to
Most
capitalize
likely,
on it.
right?
Right.
So,
No, agreed.
The kayak pirates, I guess you could call them.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the kayak or the boat ramp? Okay. And so last but not least, again, kind of staying with the sports tourism theme is the ball field turf improvements. So one of the positions that we still have vacant is our sports tourism manager position. And so we are looking at finalizing that hopefully by either the end of this month or the start of next month. But again, it goes with that sports tourism. Where are we lacking? What have we heard? What can we improve upon? How can we continue to bring in tournaments, et cetera? And so what we're looking at doing is improving two fields over at the youth sports complex. One of those being a softball championship field, and another one being a baseball championship field. And the same with the adult softball complex. It would be one of the championship fields. Just to give you a little bit of, quick 101 on that turf, we have any issues with rain and we have natural grass on the ground, it does not drain as quickly as turf does. And so what this does is literally allows us to put a game on that turf field if it rained that night before. And it's just really to keep our sports tourism alive and going and getting people in here to play on these fields. And talking with staff, softball and baseball tend to be the most heavily utilized tournaments that we have.
Yeah, in the master plan, it showed just how many people play adult softball. That is a hit. And so I really love that, in my opinion, because it gets used so much. And I was just seeing that the amount of people using it and how little attention it has gotten over the past years. So I really loved some attention going into the softball field because, like I said, I saw those numbers in the master plan and I was like, wow, those people really love to go out there. I play on Thursdays, but I don't see the other days. I don't know that there's that many people going. So that's wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Jason, what's the lifespan on a turf replacement?
It's about 10 years. It's about 10 years. And there's still some maintenance that has to be done to it. But on average, they said about 10 to 12 years.
Chance of commercial sponsorships?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, and
Frost comes to mind.
what's that?
Frost
Oh,
comes to
okay.
mind.
Noted. Yeah, and that's the same. That's the thing with all of these. I mean, if there's organizations that we can approach that may be able to sponsor or may be able to donate or any foundations. I mean, that's really where we would like to kind of curb pulling from the city in that regard. And so yeah, I welcome those kind of thoughts and comments. Thank you.
It looks like there's those outfield signs on it existing, so.
Yeah. All right. Any questions about ball field turf? Nope. Okay. So it sounds like all those are fairly decent, with the exception of Ethel Tracy just adding that one little component to it, and we're all good to go. Okay. Cool. So done with the first piece of it. Second piece of it should be a lot quicker. Okay. So, as I mentioned, that was part of our capital improvements plan, is what I just showed you. What I pulled up here is Chapter 4 of the master plan. Because in Chapter 4 of the master plan, there are certain areas that spells out each park, right? Every park with the exception of the 3 that got conceptualized. Each park has probable near-term improvements and a list of those improvements with the costs associated with those. Now, what we're doing internally as staff, we're already meeting and discussing our budget for next year. Yes, we just got finished. We just got approved with our budget in October, but our next budget's due at the end of February. So that's what we're already planning for. And so what I would like to ask of you as a commission, we have these in Chapter 4. Please take a look at them. If you could find 10 projects or 10 items throughout here that you would like to present to me and us, I would love to be able to chat about that in our February meeting so we can include those things within our budget. Now, we're already going to have conversations through staff before we are able to meet with you again in February. And that's another item that we have on here is a January cancellation due to TAF. But what I would like to do is connect with y'all, have those discussions, and make sure that we include some of those items that you as a commission would like to see within our budget that we can go ahead and accomplish now. And so that's just, I guess, my pitch to you is hopeful homework, is that if you could take a look at that. It's very difficult, y'all. It was hard to come up with those 5. It really was. And so if you look at this, finding 10 is going to be just as rough. But again, as a commission, as the advisory committee, we definitely want your input. Where the community wants to see these dollars at. Where do they need to be improved more so than others? And so,
Jason, do you want us to try to get this information to you ahead of the February meeting so that you can kind of see what, sift through it, or do you want us to present it what do you think would be?
If you could get it to me at least the week before our February meeting, that would be excellent. I can put all of it into a spreadsheet and I can send it out and hand it to y'all. And then that way, if there's any double projects that we've already got those kind of tallied. We can go ahead and note that in that
70
Excel
different
sheet.
projects, so.
I had saw in the master plan a recommendation for the utility. Basically, it permits residents to add $1 or $2. That doesn't force them, right? Because there's already one, they do that for, they do that already, that's added, a tax added, but it's nothing that they ask. They don't ask, hey, would you like to add $1 or $2? I just saw that in the master plan, and I thought it was, being creative on getting extra dollars like that.
Sure.
I don't know if any of y'all saw that. Basically you go to pay your water bill and they're like, would you like to add $2 to go towards parks and recreation, whatever, what have you? Or no, or sure, yes.
It's like kind of like a maintenance fee, right? Or
Right,
a
but-
maintenance donation, if you will.
Yeah, so they have the maintenance fee now,
Right.
but it's, I can't say no to it.
I got you.
Basically, so that would be what would be different about the one that they recommended in the master plan.
I got you.
This one, the one that they had put, basically gives the person the ability to say yes or no.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, and that's exactly, I mean, if there's something that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, park improvements, but if there's things like that, Mr. Urbano, that you would like to see as part of the top 10, please, I welcome that, because those are policy changes that we need to be able to present to council. Probably 9 times out of 10, we're going to have to present that to council just because of, it may involve a fee or something along those lines. But that's exactly, I mean, that's exactly what we would be looking at trying to gain for that February meeting.
Correct.
So you'd really like to have something back by the 7th, I guess. Is that right? Wait, sorry. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
by the 7th of February, because it looks like the February meeting would be on the 14th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So really, if we could get stuff to you
Valentine's Day.
anytime in those first 2 weeks would be, or during that first week of February.
Yeah,
would be
at the
ideal.
beginning of February would be great. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. No later than the 7th. That would be great.
Okay.
Have you heard back from those individuals that wanted to build that monument for the Afghanistan and Iraq veterans?
That's a good question. We were able to meet with them. We met with them and the city manager and discussed a few locations. We actually looked at Memorial Park, that's downtown, and part of the reason behind that was the way that the downtown master plan had conceptualized that area. It was really focusing on the veteran and the war memorial, if you will. And so that organization just kind of gave a head nod and said that they would be interested in that location in Memorial Park to put that 361 memorial or monument. But other than that, we have not had further discussion.
Before we leave the subject of this list of things we want to put on this list, can I ask, Jessica, do you think you could give email the group with a reminder, maybe right at the end of January, so that, people could have a few days to think about it and try to get that list in?
I really wish we had a way of communicating on our leisure time, so meaning that, or on our extra time. So on my coalition, we are on Facebook and we have that group, and somebody might write something at 1 and nobody might reply till 3, but we're going back and forth figuring out our agenda for the next, whatever it be, 5 days from then. But we're communicating with each other. I only know how to do Facebook. I don't know if there's a way to do that with emails or
Yeah,
text messages. I wish there was a way we could communicate.
I don't
to
think
come up with
Thomas
a
would let
solid
us
10.
do that.
You can't do stuff like that?
No,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so.
I mean, you
Not-
can if
not
it
in a
was in a
public-
smaller group setting.
Well, you just can't have, but if you tag 4 people, you've created a
Right.
quorum, so.
Right.
How do that's the problem with that. I don't know that we're subject to that meeting thing, but Thomas wants us to act as if we are. That's what my understanding is.
Yes,
I
sir.
just
So-
don't understand how we'll have that much valuable input if the only time we're ever discussing things together is once a month. So that was my reason for saying that, but hey, I don't want to
No,
break no
listen,
rules.
I
don't
get
wanna
it.
break no rules.
We can meet more. I mean,
No, we
you
don't
know.
need to meet. I was just
but-
saying, because then it would defeat the purpose of being able to do it on my own time.
Yeah,
That's why I was
yeah.
bringing
No,
up that part.
You're right, it's useful, but it's
Yeah,
it's the
okay.
price you pay for being a public body, I guess.
That's
But what I think would be helpful, I mean, if we have 70, hopefully we won't have 70 different recommendations. Hopefully they'll, maybe be 50 or something. And you guys can at least sort of sort through those things that are, that more people, it gives them an opportunity to kind of see where our minds are on those priorities and come up with a list that might be more helpful for us to discuss and not spend, not waste a lot of time on when we finally have them all in front of us. But anyway, if that would work for you, Jessica, I think that would be helpful. It helped me to get a reminder ahead of time to remember to go look at my chapter 4 and get my 10 priorities together and send them in.
10 or 5?
I think, is it
10.
10 or is
Okay.
it 10 altogether?
Top 10.
Just 10 priorities altogether.
Okay.
So we're all gonna send you our
10
individual
10 I'm sorry, each of y'all, if y'all could come up with your own 10, and we'll
Okay.
combine all of those and put it on a spreadsheet.
now
If we
it's
have 90 of them, we'll have 90 of them, but the goal is to kind of condense all of those. Hopefully, some of your minds think the same, and y'all have some of the same
Yeah,
projects.
right.
And then we can go from there.
I thought we were trying to come up with the 10 individually.
Oh, no,
I mean,
no.
the 10 as a group.
I agree.
I got you.
We
Okay.
couldn't, no, we couldn't
Okay.
do that without. That's what I'm just saying.
He's like, man, how are we doing this?
If Jessica will just remind us all to send our 10 in.
All right,
Then we'll
okay.
sit down in February and try to sort through
Got
those.
Yeah, sorry if that was not clear.
I mean, sorry if it
I'm
was
sorry.
long enough to me.
I'm gonna recommend mine 10 times.
So,
I've
I
already
mean,
gotten a memo from Thomas before on this kind of stuff, and I don't want to get another one, so.
You can't, because we, said Jason, go back to that when, there was, like he was saying, this, I guess it's illegal for us to have more than, like, all 4 meet together, that's a quorum. You can't do that, because back in the old days, when we were trying to do the dog park, we wanted to come up with ideas of fundraisers and stuff like that, and we said, well, let's get together, and it was brought up to the attention that, no, we can't do it.
Okay.
We can't meet as a group.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad to continue to learn also, so I can teach these things to the people under me who may
Like the
want to be
city
in
council,
this.
they can't, those four guys can't go to coffee together.
Yeah. After 4, it's a party.
any questions or comments for me on that? That's all I had regarding the master
I
plan.
make a motion, we adjourn, huh?
We've got one more thing
Oh,
to
yeah.
cover,
We
real
do?
quickly.
I thought it was already.
We just need to cancel the meeting for January.
So we would like to formally request that we cancel January's meeting. The only reason that we were formally requesting that from the commission is because we have TAF that same week. And so we're going to be heavily involved with the state games at that moment in the whole entire week. And so that's the only reason why we're asking for us to cancel January's meeting.
All right, so I make a motion to cancel the January commission meeting.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Now, we have, without objection, Mike has adjourned us. So we'll stand adjourned. So,
All right.
thank you all,
Thank you.
everybody. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.